all law enforcement were notified of a suspicious person somewhere on the grounds. Once the suspicious individual was identified as being in the vicinity of the AGR building, our police, who were primarily assigned to traffic duty and traffic control, did in fact, because of proximity, move towards that building to assist in trying to find and identify, the suspicious person. It's a light manufacturing office building. I'm not aware of a very specific assignment, not being part of the planning meetings, to whether or not anybody was truly assigned, dedicated to not only the building but that immediate grounds. I don't have that answer. One of our police officers, long-term, police officer here with our department. Once that suspicious individual report came out and our police arrived, in the immediate area of the building, they did do a perimeter search. Were unable to see the person on top of the building from their vantage point. So one of our other police officers, 2 total, literally boosted one of our police officers up high enough in the air to grab hold of the edge of the roof. Approximate height of 12 feet from ground to where he was able to grab a handhold. Officer pulled himself up to where his head was above the roof. Did observe an individual on the roof. Individual was identified as having a weapon and did point that firearm at our officer. That time, our officer took up a defensive position from hanging from a ledge, ducked his head, did in fact lose his grip, fell approximately 8 feet, did sustain an injury to his ankle. While prone on the ground, both the lifting officer and the prone officer both called in, identifying the individual on the roof as being armed. We did not man the actual entrance gates. I've heard the same story, but I don't have any other information than what's being broadcast right now. I can tell you, if there is none of that spilled over into this building and none of it's been directed, to our officers, there has, to the best of my knowledge, not been any direct communication with members of Secret Service to our officials. There are ongoing interviews with all law enforcement that were at the event, regardless of what their roles were. So we're all just waiting on that information to be all put together into one public report. I think there's some misconception about overall response. I can only speak for our officers transitioning from what was supposed to be a primary traffic control assistance to where it became a person of suspicion or a suspicious person. I think our law enforcement did exactly what training taught them to do, and they did their job. How subsequent events played out, that's another thing for what I hope to be a really complete report on the incident to educate everybody. A gap in time with unknowns, that leads to all the angry emails and calls that township elected officials, myself, and especially the police are receiving. Again, hopefully the report is as timely as possible and given in a way that the public can clearly follow the timelines and how different components happened, and everybody not just learns from it, but just not living in fear, but just living, get away from it. I think I'd welcome any kind of a review that gets benefit, from the outcome. Unfortunate tragedy. Certainly hope that whatever is out there to be learned from it gets learned, and we apply that to everything going forward. So I have not been asked any questions. Again, I was more of an administrative support and offered to help with logistics, but I wasn't in any of the actual planning meetings. I wasn't in any of the formulation of an operations report that was given to our officers, which we generated internally. So I have not been asked any questions. As far as, the overall interviews that I'm aware of that are taking place that the FBI are spearheading, I think they're all fact-finding from everybody that was involved. My understanding is they're going to take place this week. What the duration is, I don't know. Yeah, so I think the overall operation plan that the Butler Township Police developed for their role in the traffic control, well laid out, well planned, intercommunicated with other agencies, that were tasked with the event as a whole. I thought that their response going from traffic control and/or potentially patrol into a potential active shooter, kind of a response, spoke well to their training, spoke well to them doing their job. They responded as timely as they were notified and took probably an unorthodox method of trying to identify anybody on the roof because there wasn't access to it. It is unfortunate that one officer did get hurt, but I'd like to think that their timely identification hopefully helped minimize as best as possible the overall situation. I can honestly say here right now, I have not seen any type of email and or call-in correspondence that was direct threatening. However, the harshness of criticism from both sides of the spectrum been pretty brutal and relentless. It's been going on for roughly 2 days now. Again, I think when the entirety of the investigation is done and we have the full, complete story of how this whole event unfolded, hopefully those that are as quick to send a hate email can send back an apology just as quickly.